Here's an interesting question. Why do people hate Walker Hayes? Now, depending on who you are, chances are you can answer that question in a heartbeat. Easy, he's just not country. Which brings me to the topic of today. A bit of hypocrisy when it comes to modern country music reception. Now, don't look at this like me looking down at casual country fans. So many, including myself, are guilty of this throughout the years, and I will do my best to go into detail of what I mean. So the common issue levied against acts such as Walker Hayes is that he isn't a country artist and none of his music is country. And that statement is not wrong, like, we all know this, there's no getting around that fact. That despite how you may view the music in terms of positive and negative perspective, it's just not country music. The same can go for recent albums such as Good Time by Nico Moon and Star-Crossed by Casey Musgraves. All three share that trait, but here's another one they share. They all have poor reception. None of the albums are really held in high regard by a majority of people, and at minimum the consensus is that they're not good. It's easy to shit on these albums because not only are they bad, but they have pretty poor attempts at trying to fit the consensus for the sonic direction of the country genre. You can have people tear apart albums for all their structural issues, and at the end of the day, people just aren't interested because of the fact they aren't country. They would rather have the artist's music be chucked into the woods simply on that notion, that they aren't country nor actively attempting to blend country into their music. Especially for an artist like Walker Hayes. Have you ever heard this quote in one form or another? Insert artist here isn't country in any form. I wish they were like Taylor Swift and left the genre and went pop. I've seen this quote in so many shapes and forms over the past few years. Taylor Swift leaving the genre was a massive step for her career both financially and creatively. Most people knew her passions were beyond the country genre, and most people view her departure as respectable and hold it as a standard for people who want to stray pretty far from country boundaries. So you might be wondering where I'm going with this. Well, what if we actually switched gears, and instead of talking about a bad album, let's talk about a good one. There are a few albums I'd like to talk about today that emphasize this point. Most people genuinely don't care about how country an album is anymore. Now you're probably thinking, oh Cyrus, you really done it this time? Of course I care about genre integrity in country music. Please let me elaborate on this. So one of the most beloved albums of 2020 was an album by Brett Eldredge entitled Sunday Drive. I'm not here to say whether this is a masterpiece, good or bad. Let's just emphasize one thing. This is not a country album. It is a pop album, specifically classic pop. In fact, there's not really any country elements a part of this album. Its genre influences are specifically in folk, light rock, and pop. So here's a question. If there's such an overwhelming sense of kicking Walker Hayes out of the country genre simply because he isn't a country artist, why isn't the same sentiment given to Brett Eldredge and his album? If we're really going to get nitpicky on which one is more country, then in actuality, Walker Hayes' country stuff is a countryer project than Sunday Drive.
Did he just say, aye, he did?
There's a lot more attempts in country instrumentation and chord progression in Walker's album than there is in Brett's. So why isn't there a mob of angry country fans telling Brett Eldredge to get out of the country genre because his album is just a mellow pop record? Simple. Sunday Drive is an actually good album. Sunday Drive is filled with charm, endearing moments that connect with people, in contrast to country stuff which is just a generic trend-chasing album. Given the standard people have set, we should cast this album out of country because of how little it attempts to be a country project. And yet we don't, because we love the music. You see where I'm getting at this? The actual amount of modern country fans might claim they want country to sound countryer, which is probably true, they do want it to be, but when it comes to quality projects such as this, they're welcome to keep it and look the other way in comparison to Nico Moon. An even better comparison would be 2021's buzziest albums, Human by Cody Johnson and Reckless by Morgan Wade. Once more, casting my personal thoughts on these records aside, which one is the country album? Not which is countryer than the other, which is a genuine country album? Obviously Human. Now you're probably gonna claim, oh, but Reckless has country elements. No, that's not the question. Is Reckless by Morgan Wade a genuine country album? Deep down, I think you know the answer to that question. Most people love these albums equally, but Human is the only one I'd actually say is a country record. Meanwhile, Reckless is just an alt-rock album plugged into the country genre, and we're not telling Morgan Wade to pull a Taylor Swift and leave because she's actual quality in country music, and in a year as abysmal as 2021, we want to keep her because of the talent she possesses, which a lot of country music the past year sorely lacked. Like I said earlier, I'm guilty of this myself. Looking back to my top 10 country albums of 2021, of the 10 albums I highlighted, in reality, 3 of the 10 are albums I'd actually say are country releases. Alan Jackson's Where Have You Gone, Carly Pearce's 29 Rand in Stone, and Travis Tritt's Set in Stone. I could have chucked these other albums into the woods and just kept the list with bona fide country projects, yet I didn't. Because I love the exploration and in some cases just merely the quality of the output these albums had. I don't want them to leave because they're the best Nashville's got at the moment. I could play this game all day. A lot of fan favorite albums simply aren't country albums. Wild World by Kip Moore, Port St. Joe by Brothers Osborne, A Rock by Hardy, even Luke Combs' stuff, which probably has the most country elements of anyone in the field, aren't genuine country projects. Even Mr. Misunderstood, which, need I remind you, is my favorite album of all time, isn't a country album. It's a rock album, plain and simple. I didn't tell Eric Church to leave country music because I loved this album. I connected with it. Now, am I saying this is a bad thing artists are doing? Not at all. I'm so happy these albums open up country music in new and bold creative ways in sonic direction, production, and writing. Country music is allowed to explore new horizons rather than just be stuck in the gutters. Eric, back in 2014, elaborated on how country as a genre or just genres in general are dead. They are barriers limiting the creative process so much and don't allow for people to express their art in the purest way possible. I mostly agree with this, although there should be some emphasis on genre within these albums. And thankfully, a lot of albums these days have that emphasis, but there are some that don't. At this point, you're wondering what the point of this video is. Well, it's a plea for this behavior to stop. We should all just stop telling people to leave the genre or berate them solely on how they're not country, even if they are bad albums, and just look the other way when it comes to good ones. Because solely accepting the good stuff, which while noble, is just more restriction on a genre that has suffered enough from it. Let creativity run wild and let the albums stand on their own merits and accept them no matter what as country music. I'm not saying stop calling them garbage, because if anything, we need more of that, but it's time to learn to live with Walker Hayes rather than eagerly desire to kick him out. Love and respect the good, but also accept the bad.